All right, I'm gonna make a quick video about how mods work with Starfield. Since a few people have asked what I meant about the mods being broken, not being able to have more than 80 mods. First off, the 80 or so mods that I mentioned, it depends on what mod you have installed. It could be 100, it could be 90, it could be 80. Somebody messaged me and said that they could have like 120 to 140 mods before it starts breaking. Actually, no, he commented on a couple of the videos. Anyway, let's go over how mods work. First off, you need to understand there's a form ID. So that's an eight digit number. So like 00000000, or it goes all the way up to FF, 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 FF. Yeah, 8 Fs. So 0 to 9 and A to F. So AKA 16 bits per digit. So 16 times 16, so 2 digits equals 256. This is why they say that you can have 256 full ESMs and 256 medium ESMs, because the first 2 digits is a full ESM. The second 2 digits, which will start off with what's FD, so all medium ESMs will start off at FD and then 00. So the second set of two is the medium ESMs. And then for small ESMs, which are FE, you have the next 3 digits are the load order. So you can have 4096, which is 16 times 16 times 16 equals 4096. And oops, in medium, again, you have 16 times 16 equals 256. Now, the reason why full ESMs can only have 253 is because the FD, the FE, and the FF are already taken up. FF is your unique items that spawn during your gameplay. So when you're playing the game and you loot a chest and you get a weapon, that weapon will pull from a normal 00 form ID in the Starfield. Uh, Starfield ESM's load order is 00. So the weapon ID in the Starfield ESM might be 00005B28C, let's just say, something like that. Is that 8? I think that's 1 digits. There we go. So say it's not, but let's just say that's the form ID of the weapon in Starfield.esm. When you spawn a weapon in a chest, it now becomes FF00, and then FF, and then whatever number, and it just randomly generates a number. So let's just say 000001. Let's just say it's the first item you ever spawn. It'll be 0000. That'll be the first item you ever spawn in your save game. Now you may remember back when the game first came out that save games were getting corrupted, and you would land at New Atlantis and half the city would be missing. All the models would be missing, and you just see the terrain underneath the city. And that was because the game was running out of these unique uh, form IDs. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits times 16 So 16 times 16 times 16 times 16 equals, let's me get a calculator out. So 16 times 16 times 16 times 16 times 16 times 16. So you can have a total of 16,777,216 FF form IDs or unique items in a playthrough. So if you waited too long to go through New Game Plus, you'd burn through 16. You'd burn through the 16 million, almost 17 million form IDs. And that's why your game would break, because it'd try to load a form ID or it would end up having to reuse form IDs or something, and the game wouldn't be able to load the data it's looking for. That's why the game was breaking back then. I believe they added a couple of extra digits to it or something so that you won't break the form ID. I mean, you won't run out of form IDs. So that's the reason why you only have 253 slots. Because FD is medium, that's 254. FE is small, 255. And FF is the unique items, or 256. So that takes up the 256 full slots. Keep in mind, 253 is what's left over. That includes base game ESMs like Starfield ESM and what else? Blueprints ESM. So now we are down to 251 ESMs that you can use for mods. And we are down to, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 of the medium ESMs. So we are down to 252 of medium ESM. And we are down to, let's see, there's 1, 2, oh no, sorry. We are down 2 of the mediums. That's 254. And we're down 4 of the small. So that would leave you with 4092. Because the base game already has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ESMs. Now keep in mind, when I say the game breaks around 80 or 100 or whatever the case may be, it doesn't care what type of ESM you're talking about. What it cares about is that the game just times out. The game will end up stop loading the ESMs and start loading your save data without finishing loading the ESMs. So wherever it gets to in that list, anything after that point, it times out, and any mod after that point is broken. And you can see it, like if I start the game right now, you can see it loading the data. And I'm going to start the game right now. Right now I have 135 mods enabled, and it's still broken. But the main thing is it's somewhere in the 80s or whatever, and it just times out. And it helps that I have this startup, this video, because the position of the red orb that's rotating tells you. Because it's gonna stop loading the mods somewhere around here, and then just, yeah, right there in the middle. And now I'm loading my save data. It always stops. It always stops in that same spot. Always. And you can see my mods are broken because I have space for release and left control for release. Those are probably from the non-lethal takedown mod that I have installed. but they're not supposed to be showing up on a ladder. They're only supposed to be showing up on NPCs that I have taken down. I'm supposed to. That's supposed to be if I put handcuffs on them so I can release them. Why is that on a ladder? That's because the mod's broken in my load order. So if I go ahead and close that and find where non-lethal is 128. So if I move that up to like 80 or something like that, it will no longer show up on the ladder. And that's because the game just times out. It just decides, okay, it's time to load the save data, and it just forgets about loading the rest of the ESMs. And it depends on the ESMs you have loaded. It depends on how many ESMs you have loaded and the amount of time it takes to load those ESMs on where it breaks. For me, in this current load order, it's somewhere around 80. The last time I tried it, it was somewhere around 90. The time before that, back in November when I first found this bug, I think it was around 100 mods I was able to get loaded. Like I said, the person that commented on my video, he says it's somewhere in like the 120 to 140 range. And he's noticed it as well, and he has multiple profiles saved with different mods on each profile, so he can try the different mods in different playthroughs. You shouldn't need to do that. The game's broken. There's a timeout issue or something going on. The game's just not loading them. So this is how the ESMs work. You have the full, you have the medium, you have the small. You have 251 free slots, 254, 4,092. And that's theoretical, like I said, because the game's broken. I doubt the game will ever get to whatever that total is, 4094 plus 256 plus 256 equals, I calculate 4096 plus 256 plus 256. So you should be able to get 4608 mods, ESMs total. Sorry, not mods, ESMs. Keep in mind, mods, not all mods use ESMs, and some mods use more than one ESM. Like for example, Starfield HD. I have this mod is a HD overhaul. It's just 16 archives, 17 archives, and an ESM. And the ESM is empty. If I highlight over it, come on, show it. It says loads archives. There are archives connected to this plugin. The assets will be loaded to your game, overlighting in case of conflicts, blah, blah, blah. And it also says this is a dummy plugin. It contains no records. So this ESM does not edit or create anything. All it's there for is to load the archives. Same with Spaceships Redone, 4K Beards, 4K Hair, and Artifacts Redone. These are all archives, BA2 files that are being loaded by these ESMs. None of these ESMs have any data in them. So if I was to go ahead and enable all, yes, let's go ahead and show you what an ESM looks like. So I'm going to use xEdit because I'm more familiar with xEdit. So I do need to disable one mod because this is an ESL mod which uses this mod as a master, which is also an ESL. And xEdit right now does not believe that ESLs can be masters. An ESL just means it's a small ESM. The ESL flag has been reused in Starfield to register that it's a small ESM. See, it's got the 3 digits. So its load order is FE01A. This one is FE019, and so on. So you can see here, this is a large ESM, so it's got just 2 digits. Its loader, its form IDs start with 90. This one is a medium ESM, even though it's got an ESL flag. That's because xEdit hasn't been updated to recognize the new formats, but the form ID prefix is FE011. So, this is a small ESM. And that's a small ESM. That's a small. Does it recognize? It may not recognize the mediums. Yeah, I don't think it recognized the mediums yet. I don't see any DFDs. So xEdit does not recognize the medium format yet. So that's a thing to keep in mind. Is xEdit does not have support for medium ESMs yet. So xEdit needs to be updated. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the ESM and show you what an ESM is. ESM, the form IDs basically there's a ton of, let's just say, Excel spreadsheet forms, and each one of those takes up one of those form IDs. So, for example, let's go to my cloaking mod. My spell is one form ID. The form ID for my spell is, in my current load order, 1E. Now, this 1E will change based on load order. So if I change this load order to be like, where is it in my load order? So it's 36. 36 is 1C. If it was 35, it would be 1B. If it was 30, it'd be 16, and so on. So the 1E that you're seeing here is based on load order. And then the actual form ID is 80C. So this spell is 80C, and this cell points to a magic effect 80A. And it also points to some other stuff. These are conditions. So in order for the spell to take effect, you must have boost fuel greater than 0.1. Your boost must be active, aka equal 1. You must be in space, aka equal 1. And player must have a rank of greater than equal to 1 for the perk. And the ship must have an active value of greater than 1. Greater than equal to, all right, that's wrong actually. That should be greater than or equal to 2, greater than equal to 1. Because this active value is what the actual equipment perk does. So this is the actual piece of equipment. When you install it on your ship, it's gonna add 5 health. It's gonna add 7 mass. It's gonna add 1 crew rating, and it's gonna give the cloak and equipment active value of 1. So your condition is it has to be greater than and equal to 1. So as long as you have 1 or more cloaking perks, this spell will be activated. And this spell is put in place by the perk. So this is the reason why I needed a perk. So you train in the perk, and I set where the perk is in the tech category, and in the second row, advanced, I made sure it's playable so it shows up. And what it does is apply spell on ship boost. And it again has conditions. And the condition is that your active value, your boost fuel must be above 0.1. and your active value must be greater than and equal to 1. And the function is a spell, and it points to the spell, 80C. So this perk, once you take it, is going to apply this spell on your ship as long as you have an active value of 1 or higher. And then it points to this spell. I mean, technically, I guess it doesn't really matter if this is 0 or 1, because if you don't have the, I'll have to see if that actually matters. I don't think it does, because the perk is what actually is doing the active value part of it. So this is just redundant. But anyway, so, and then here's your constructible item. So this is what shows up in the ship builder. So the ship builder sees this constructible item, workbench ship building keyword. So that tells it that belongs to the ship builder. You can change that and either be weapon workbench, industrial workbench, research workbench. That's how you tell where it's going to show up. And this one is for the ship builder. And then you have your condition for it to show up in the ship builder. You have to be at least player level 1, equal, greater than or equal to. And I could add a condition and say like you have to have experimental perk or something like that as well if I wanted to. But I only have just this one condition. There are some, like the comm spike. The comm spike normally has, let me find my patch file. Here is the patch file. There we go. There's my patch file. So I believe the comm spike is in here. And here's the comm spike and the conduction grid. So both of these by default has a condition that this quest must be completed, meaning that you did the quest for the Crimson Fleet, and the NPC must be Jasmine. And proceed to, this is another quest stage. So this quest must be done, this quest stage must be done, and the NPC must be Jasmine. So I removed those conditions so I can get the comm spike anywhere. So this is a edit of the form ID that is in Starfield ESM, and my patch file is overriding that field, changing these. Now, it's the same for both of them. They both have quests and Jasmine, and I removed the both. Now, the reason why this is a patch file is because, like, you see these red items? These are conflicts between different mods. So, this one is a entry that comes from Starfield ESM that was edited by Survival Immersive Survival add-on and ship weapons use ammo. So I made a patch to make them both work together. Now I chose which name and which model of the item in the inventory that I wanted, because Survival uses one name and Ship Weapons uses a different name. Since they both changed the name from the original name is Missile, whatever that says, 50K. Survival has Sea Missile, that name, 50K. And then Ship Weapons use ammo that says the name 50K Missile. So that's the name I chose. Since these both made a change, it's staying red. But it's okay because my patch fixes the problem, fixes the conflict. You'll also notice that these 5 fields here are blank on the Starfield ESM. Survival adds the fields. These are keywords. So ammo box, blah, blah, blah. So they both had the ammo box. So I copied them over. Plus I copied over the 3 from Survival, and I copied over this one from Ship Weapons. So all of these lines now exist. So both mods will find what they're looking for. And again, this line is just the model that shows up inside your inventory screen. So I decided to use the model that Ship Weapons chose to use. So yes, it's still red that there's a conflict because they both made changes that weren't uh, fixed, and I could fix that. I could copy that there and copy that there, and because now this one no longer makes changes, it turns yellow. But I don't really need to. I don't need to save changes to Starfield because my patch file fixes the conflict between the two mods. So that's how patch files work. This is how ESMs work. That basically oversimplification, they're basically Excel spreadsheets, basically. And then your form ID is just what identifies this form in the system. And again, it's an 8-digit, with each digit being a 16-bit digit. And you can have a total of, what was, go back over here. So in your save game, you can have a total of 16 million form ID. So a full ESM that only uses the first 2 digits as the offset could have a total of 16 million form ID. A medium ESM can only have 16 times, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 16 times 16 times 16 times 16. So a medium ESM can only have 65,536 form IDs. And then a small ESM can only have 16 times 16 times 16. All right. That would only leave 3. So a small ESM can only have 4,096 form ID. So that's another reason why a mod might want to be medium or large, is dependent on how many items they're creating. Now, keep in mind, this should only matter for new items the mod makes. So mods can create new items or edit existing items. So in the case of my cloaking device, these ones are white and start off with 1E, so that means they're new. They're something I created. Something I created starts with the 1E. Anything that starts with the 1E from my ESM's 1E is something that I created new. So I made a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So a total of 13 form IDs. But technically, this could be a small ESM. But the problem is, with a small ESM, then I can't make a patch file, which this is a patch file, that changes the effect from, what does it change? It changes the, this is what's changing the special effect. Where is it? It changes the shipability cloaking sequence 2 to armor void form. So I changed the starborn cloaking to the void form cloaking in this patch. I have another one where I just set this to a null reference 00000000. So that's a no. Oh, doesn't let me do. Never mind. Escape that. Forget that change. Anyway, so because this second ESM uses my mod as a master, my cloaking mod must be a full ESM. Otherwise, xEdit wouldn't let me modify it. It does not believe ESLs can be masters as of right now. That's a problem with xEdit. xEdit needs to be updated to understand how ESMs work in Starfield. I do have so this field is something that comes from Starfield ESM, and you notice that it's conflicted with ship combat overhaul. And the reason why it just conflicts with ship combat overhaul is we both touch this ship spaceship part sum the values. So my mod conflicts, the cloaking equipment mod conflicts with ship combat overhaul. Because ship combat overhaul is trying to increase the max speed. So they moved these three items from let's see, let me go to the patch file. Back to the patch file. What is that on the form ID? So there's these two fields. These are how your stats for your ship are calculated. So spaceship part sum the values means everything gets added up. So spaceship combat overhaul moved these three from selected min values, meaning the minimum value. So if you have three engine parts, one has a speed of 180, one has a speed of 160, and one has a speed of 140, then your max speed is 140 because it's in Starfield ESM, it's under select min value. Space Combat Overhaul moves those three values, forward speed, backward speed, boost speed, from selected min to summed. So added up. So 120 plus 180 plus 140 equals 440 instead of 120. But I don't like that. I don't want my boost speed. I didn't want my speeds to be added up. I wanted my speeds to keep the vanilla way of doing things. So my patch puts them back in where the vanilla game has them, removes them from the ship combat overhaul, and the patch also adds this cloak and equipment active value to the summed list because this needs to be in our summed list in order for the cloak and equipment to work. So, like I said, ship combat overhaul conflicts with my mod. The two cannot be used together because they both edit this form. The only way you can use these two together is if you have a patch that fixes that, which I have a patch. And you can see they're in order. So Starfield ESM is loaded first. Ship Combat Overhaul is loaded second. Cloak and Equipment is loaded third. And then my patch is loaded last. So whatever's in my patch is what the game is going to load. So all that matters, even though this is red, all that matters is what's in my patch. My patch is what matters, nothing else does. So that basically covers how mods works, the basics of it. I mean, there's a lot more to it because there's a lot cross referencing, like for this cloaking equipment, I did it before the creation kit came out. So I had to reverse engineer the Starborn Guardians cloaking and figured out how it worked, how everything was cross referenced, how there was a generic base form value that was being used by the perk, and then that perk, there was the generic base form value was the active value. So on anyway, yeah. So anyway, I had to reverse engineer how all these different forms backtrack back and forth to each other. So the construction object points to the generic base form. The generic base form is what gives the values to your ship. And then those values are added up in this form ID list. And that's how your ship gets its stats. And then the perk is using that active value from your ship as a condition on whether or not that this spell can be applied to your ship. And then it lists the spell. And then here's the spell. And then the spell has a magic effect. And then here's the magic effect that it points to. And this is what this tells that it gives you invisibility. And this is the effects that gets played on your ship. Cloak and equipment effects, which then points to where was the effects? Where was? Oh, effect shader. And there's the effect shader. So this was the original one the Starborn Guardian used. This is the one my patch file changes it to, which is the armor void form. So it's a slightly different effect. So the Starborn Guardian has this weird explosion when you first go into the invisibility mode, where the void form, the armor void form, doesn't have that, and that might help with people that have lag on their system. Now, granted, this patch is only on Nexus mods. So on Nexus mods, I have two optional files, the alternative effect and the no effect. So both require the main file, and the main file uses the Starborn Guardian effect. The alternate effect swaps the void form from armors instead of the Starborn Guardian one. And then this one has no effect at all. So your ship still looks normal, but you still have the invisibility from here. So there's still an invisibility. So when you fly away, the enemy ships should not be able to follow you. Duration and ships, that don't matter because there is still no duration. It's a fire and forget. As long as you're boosting, you are invisible. As long as you're boosting, as long as you got boost fuel, and as long as you have the active value, then the spell can go off. So the spell is looking for that you have the perk at rank 1. The spell is looking that you're in space. The spell is looking that your boost is active, and the spell is looking that you have boost fuel in order to give you the invisibility and play that effect. So I had to reverse engineer how all this stuff works to make the cloaking equipment. All right, hope this explains it for everybody, and have a good one.